The following episode of the Toddcast was previously recorded on June 14th. How hard is it to be a college president? What is the ULM Warhawk Roadshow? And what is it like for a college president in this post-COVID world? Well, I talk about all that and more on this episode of the Toddcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Toddcast. As always, I'm your host, Ty McManus, and today is a very special episode because joining me for his third appearance on the Toddcast, please welcome back the president of the University of Louisiana at Monroe, President Dr. Berry. Dr. Berry, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Todd. Thanks. Thanks for having me again.
It's your third time, like I said before. And I wanted to ask you this question just to start off all the conversation here. And it is a would you rather question. So, and this kind of pertains to you being the president of this college, you know. So the question is, would you rather have to park the farthest away from your office every day for a whole year, or have to improv every speech you give for ULM for a whole year?
Oh, that's a good question. I probably would rather park over by the athletic facilities and walk for several reasons. One, it would be good for my health. But yeah, I need to be prepared for speeches.
you gotta have your stuff written down there.
Yeah.
You don't think you can be able to get up there and just wing it, really?
Well, actually, I do a lot of that. I try to speak from the heart, but I do like some notice ahead of time. But I've learned that if I just speak from the heart, it comes across more authentic because it is authentic, and it seems to be received much better when it's like that. But I think I'll still pick walking because I need to, a lot of students put on the freshman 10. I think I've done that as a president. So walking would be good for me.
Yeah. And that'd be hard, or it'd be difficult only for some days, for whenever it's like, 20-something degrees during like January, you're having an ice storm.
Yeah.
And it'd be difficult having to park like over by the football stadium and having to walk like the farthest you possibly can. So like by the baseball stadium almost. Having to walk all the way from across there around the Coliseum to get here. It'd take like 10, 15 minutes just to walk here.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I've got to be heart healthy, so I'm gonna stick with my answer. I'm gonna walk.
It makes sense in your position because you give probably a lot of speeches, every now and again, and having to just get up there with no notes and no topics, really like, all right, I'm gonna talk about this, and something may happen and get you off topic, or see something happen and forget what you're talking about, all that kind of stuff. Because I'm kind of the same way, where it's like, whatever I'm talking about, I'll have just like the headline points, and then just like, okay, I'm going to talk about this, and then just, it's not 100% improvise, it's like 80 to 85 around there,
That makes sense.
You're probably the same way, where it's like the headline, and then I'll do the actual stuff in between is just for me, know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, to go ahead and get into this, I want to ask you, since you've been here as the president of the entire college, you were elected or appointed to this position in November of 2020, right?
September
2020, that's right.
September.
And so it's getting closer and closer to 2 years. How has it been these past almost 2 years?
It's still a little surreal. I still learn something every day. In fact, I was in a meeting this morning and we were talking about some things, and I realized, wow, that hasn't happened before. That's something new I've got to think about. I've got to think about the situation differently. And so I think, it's been very positive. Like you said earlier, a lot of public speeches and appearances and a lot of engagement with the community, which is all great. So it's been more than I ever expected, but in a very good way. It's a job that is time-consuming, challenging, but the rewards far outweigh the work effort and the time. It is truly a blessing for me to have this job and have the opportunity to be able to make a difference for other people.
And like you said, how it's time-consuming and different challenges come your way, and some can be harder and some may be a little easier than most, do you consider this position the hardest job you've ever had?
I wouldn't classify it in terms of hard or easy. It's challenging. But, I think for me, years and years ago when I first got into higher ed, that was where I needed to be. And so I know you and your listeners have probably heard that old saying that if you find a job you really love, you'll never work a day in your life, or consider it work. I have yet to get up in the morning and say I don't want to go to work. I don't want to represent ULM today. It is a job that I truly love and appreciate, and so I don't feel like I'm working. The challenging part for me, so if you had to equate that to being hard, is that I'm always at work. I'll give you an example. This past week, I flew to Atlanta for the Sun Belt Athletic Conference for the CEO meeting. We meet twice a year in Atlanta, and so I get on the airplane, and I'm sitting next to this young man, and he looked a little nervous, and so I didn't say anything, didn't bother him, on the airplane. And so we get to Atlanta, and the flight attendant says, so we've got a family that needs to rush to make their connection. Could everyone please stay seated and let this family off? Which was nice, I thought. And so the gentleman and lady in front of us, the gentleman was wearing a hat, and they got up, and the young man sitting next to me was also wearing the same hat. So I turned to him and said, do you need to go? Are these your parents? Do you need to go? And he says something like, no, Dr. Berry, I don't need to go. And so here's this ULM student sitting next to me this whole time, never saying a word. And then interestingly enough, our son just graduated from ULM in the spring. And so I come back from the Sun Belt Conference on Monday, and then I get in a U-Haul and drive my son's stuff, and my son's following us to Denver, where he's starting his first post-college job. And one of his friends is in Denver as well. So we're out having dinner after we got Michael moved into his apartment and everything. And he says, oh, President Berry, I just, one of my friends saw you at the airport and he Snapchatted a photo of you sitting in the waiting room. It was the young man that I was sitting next to.
On the plane the entire time.
On the plane the entire time. So it's... that's the hard part for me, that I'm always on, that I'm almost a public figure for the university, and that's a challenge that, people might be taking pictures of me and I don't know it, and they're sending it to other people, in this case, someone who's in Denver, and I just happen to be going to Denver, and he says that, oh, by the way, my friend Snapchatted, and I said, oh my gosh, are you serious? And so I'm sitting there thinking, okay, where did that go? And he said, don't worry, Snapchat goes away. And I said, oh, okay, that's good. So that's the challenging piece for me. And it's not hard, it's just different. I'm a very private person, a very quiet person, an introvert, really. And so that's a challenging piece for me.
And especially when people think of ULM or want to go to ULM and think of it that like you're the number one person that they have to think of, it's like, well, who's the president, who's in charge, basically, and they got to go to you, and like if there's a problem here, it's got to work its way up to get to you, so it's like you almost have like the final say in pretty much everything that goes around. And so with all of that, since you've been here for almost 2 years, how long do you think that you would like to stay in this position?
That's a great question, Todd. Someone asked me that recently, and I said, I've never really thought about a timeline. I know that the average tenure for a president, somewhere between 5 and 10 years. But what I hope is that I know when it's time, that I know when somebody else can come in and do more for the university than I can. And but hopefully 5 to 10 years, hopefully more, as long as I'm doing a good job, hopefully I'll have the opportunity to stay and offer my services. But I don't have an exact number. I just hope that when the time comes, I know it myself. And I can make that decision, what's in the best interest of the university.
And even like once you spend like the 5 to 10 year period, like if you were to spend like 8 or 9, just for example, that amount, in that amount of time that you would have been here for that total amount, once you decide like, okay, I'm done, I'm going to give it up, I'm going to retire, I'm going to let somebody else come in. It could be somebody, from here that's been here in that same amount of time just working under you, and you can be like, hey, I want you to step in to run for it.
Well, yeah. So so the board of supervisors would make that decision. So as president, I don't get to pick, who follows me or anything like that. So, but certainly, any good leader wants to make sure that they have a succession plan, and that somebody is there that's capable of stepping into your role, so that the organization doesn't suffer. And so there are several people here at the university that could do that. So, worst case scenario, the university would be in good shape.
And so if somebody's listening out there or would come to you and ask, what is some advice that you would give to somebody that would maybe want to run for president of a college?
Well, I think you have to really be ready, willing, and able to devote most of your life to it. It's an consuming position, and have a passion for changing lives, have a passion for helping other people and serving other people. It's not something you do for yourself. It's not something you do for your own ego. I think it's a position where you really want to help other people, and be prepared to meet a lot of people, have a lot of opportunities to change lives and make a difference in your community. So I'd say if you're looking for a position where you can make a real difference, then go for it. It's outstanding. But you also have to take time to take care of yourself, because you can't help others if you don't take care of yourself. And that's a challenge for me sometimes, but it is important.
And like you said, like it's very time consuming, that it's almost like, that you have your house over there, but it's almost like this is kind of like second home in a way, because it's like you spend most of almost every day here, and you got to get up early. You may spend some late nights, you never know, depending on how the week goes. And like that's how some people feel with their kind of jobs. They may feel like they may be at work too much or something, or like I said, a second home, or if it feels like you're at work more than you are with family or at your home or anything like that. And I feel like that's a problem that a lot of people would run into, especially in like a president position or maybe a CEO of a business position, like that kind of thing. So have you ever felt that way? Or
Yeah, it is. That's a great point, Todd, and you described it exactly. It's a 24/7, 365-day a year job. It's but for me, it's perfect. I love it. The challenge that we talked about earlier, though, is real. It's kind of, for Memorial Day weekend, I was with my family for a short vacation and in another state, and people knew who we were. So you can't really escape, but that's okay. That's part of it. It's a good thing.
Almost like you're famous, kind of.
Yeah,
in the way
which
when
is
you feel
scary,
like it.
And still, I don't really get why people will stop me and say, "Can I take a picture with you?" And I'm thinking, "Oh gosh, surely there are better people to take a picture with instead of me." But
because you have like a certain fame and aura about being in that position.
No, I think it's just the position. It's not about me, and I know that it's the position, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
it really is, and so I'm playing that role for the university.
Yeah,
and so it's cool. It really is,
because it's kind of like the same thing of like seeing a mayor around or somebody, and it's like if you ever feel like you're famous or something, then like seeing one of the Robertsons or somebody, like if you saw them, because they're just like normal people like us, and see them walk in the street, or like years ago, whenever I was younger, I had the same orthodontist that one of the kids did from the show, and seeing them in there sometimes, or one of their parents that, I think it was like one of Jace's kids or somebody.
Yeah.
And it's always weird because it's like, they live here with us, but, they're multi-millionaire. They're well known across the world as the Duck Dynasty people. Every time I go off into another state, and like it's always happened that I'll be in a restaurant or something and I'm ordering food, and the first question is that they ask me where I'm from because of my accent.
Yeah.
And then I'll say I'm from Louisiana, around Monroe, and then they're like, "Oh, do you know the Duck Dynasty people?" It's the same question every time.
Yeah.
But like in this area, and like you said, in other places, when you think about ULM, like you're the one that they go to, because you're in that position of like, okay, now you're the president, you got to accept that's like you have somewhat of a fame around you.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised that's not happening to you, Todd, with the Toddcast.
It has sometimes.
Yeah.
It had. Well,
That's
since they
cool.
can't see me, they have to recognize when I talk. So it's like I can go in Walmart and not be noticed, but I can talk to some people and they're like, "Oh, I think I recognize you. Sound familiar."
Yeah, that's cool.
And so I want to talk about a little bit that was announced not too long ago is the Warhawk Roadshow.
Yeah.
Now, for those who may not know, what exactly is this Warhawk Roadshow?
So, last summer we were celebrating a new football coach, Coach Bowden, when he joined our athletic program as our head football coach. We kind of went to different markets where we have a large alumni base, just to introduce him and to talk about the university. Talk about the changes on campus, talk about the excitement. And so this summer we decided to, then it was called the Barry Bowden Roadshow, because I was new, he was new. But this summer it's more about the entire university. So we decided just to call it the Warhawk Roadshow. And so Coach Bowden will go, some of the other coaches might go as well. And so we'll go to places like Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, and then all across Louisiana, just visiting with alumni and supporters and talking about all the great things going on at ULM.
Yeah.
So it's kind of taking the university to our alumni around the South.
Just doing, just different shows. Not like kind of like a tour almost,
It's kind of like a tour, but, we'll have, I'll speak about the university, tell them about all the neat things going on, and one of the coaches will talk about athletics, and our athletic director will be there. He'll talk about athletics, and then we'll have a speaker from that particular area who's an alumni.
Oh, okay.
And so they'll talk about their connection to the university, and so it's really not a show as in what most people think of, but we will be talking about the university and having a good time.
Yeah. It's not like a comedy tour or a musical or something like that.
I don't know if people have heard Coach Bowden speak, but he's pretty funny.
So it might be part comedy tour, too.
There might be some comedy to it, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And so, how long will the roadshow last?
So, we start, I think, next week, and we will go through July, and then the last one will be here in Monroe in the first week of August, I think August the 3rd.
Okay.
And that event is called The Pursuit, and that's when the Warhawks just come home from the road show.
Okay.
And that'll be the last event. Each evening, it'll be about 2.5 hour event. And so, it's exciting. It's just a way for us to take the university and all the exciting things to our alumni.
Yeah. And like all of y'all and you yourself get to travel around and go to different cities and towns and all that, and get to meet all the people who graduated from recently or years past, and being able to, like you said, it's got that feeling of like a tour, kind of, because you're like, hey, we get to go to Dallas, all right, we're going to Houston, all right, we're going to Lake Charles or Lafayette or wherever, going to different places. And
probably the only difference is we don't have groupies.
It's just kind of like a more, like, you could say, like, professional tour. You could say it like that.
Exactly right.
And so, with going to these different places and speaking in front of the alumni and all these other people here, what is y'all's goal, and what do you hope to accomplish from the roadshow?
So another great question, Todd. So we want to bring people back to the university, to campus. We want to create rekindle old relationships. We want to create opportunities for our existing students. So it's really networking. It's building our network of relationships. It's inviting people back to campus to come to events across campus, provide internships for our students, full-time job opportunities for our students, and just hopefully building that alumni network, getting more people to engage with the university, to support the university, which will hopefully lead to better opportunities for our current students. And it's the ULM community is really a family. I mean, it's really quite cool when we go to these places and see people who haven't seen each other in a while just kind of pick up where they left off last time they saw each other at a ULM event. They end up talking about living in Olin Hall together, the 11-story building that we used to have as a dorm, or, waiting 2 hours to get into a women's basketball game because, it was just packed. And so that's exciting. It's to get people together, to revisit good times when they were here as students, and then build on those relationships.
And so, just to talk a little bit about, because you were appointed to this position, like we said, September 2020, so we were really in the height of COVID around that time, and still having to social distance, mask, and then get the vaccines and all that kind of stuff. And now that we're in June of 2022, we're kind of, like they've said, we're basically right now in a post-COVID world. How has it been, and what's it like now that we live in a post-COVID world for ULM?
Yeah, certainly it's much better than living in the COVID world, and certainly having a lot more face-to-face events and meetings, and hopefully getting the classes back to somewhat normal, where students can be in the classroom and engage with their fellow students and faculty members. So it's been really nice, but it hasn't gone away. It's still out there, and but hopefully we're at the point where it's not as dangerous as it was at one time, and so it's really nice to be in the post-COVID world, and it's we've seen the number of events go up significantly on campus, face-to-face events, and just like the traveling we'll do this summer, we'll be able to do that without masks, which is nice, and talk to people face-to-face and engage that way. So it's exciting, and we're just looking forward to a great fall semester where everybody's back and not having to worry at all about COVID or anything else for that matter.
Yeah, and that's basically, because I still remember when it was first announced, when Dr. Bruno was still here, that we were going to all online. And then once you were appointed to this position, we were kind of still all online in that fall semester from August 2020 going into May 2021. We were kind of getting back into it a little bit, And then I remember talking to you, and we were saying that we're going to do more hybrid and slowly try to come back in,
Mm-hmm.
And where it was like you got to wear masks inside, but once you get outside, you don't, as long as you stay 6 feet or more apart.
Yeah.
And then now, we're getting closer to this August, and it's like it's back to a normal college feeling,
Yeah, absolutely. And Todd, we followed the science all along. Followed the guidelines, and I think for the most part, our campus and student body and family we were able to stay healthy and as best as possible, and that's what we'll continue doing. But hopefully, you're right. In August, things will be whatever normal is.
Just trying to make it feel like, because it's not going to still feel like as it was whenever, maybe the fall of 2019, back then we were all scrunched in a building or a room together and not worrying about it and doing all that. And then now it just changed just like that. And then now after it, it's like you still feel it, and you're still if there's a big room full of people, you're still it's like there's still the thoughts.
That's right. That's right. And that's probably going to be with us for a while. I mean, I'll still get in my car and drive somewhere and get out and then think, I forgot my mask. And that's still, that happened to me the other day. It's going to take us a while to get past all those little things.
Yeah, almost like we're kind of got scarred from it, basically, when you think about it, because it's whether you yourself got sick or you lost a family member or friend from it, so it's it just happened really quickly, because it lasted. It's still here, but the entire pandemic version of it, lasted 2 years almost. Yeah. It's 1.5 to 2 years, and it's when you think of it, in the whole grand scheme of it, that's short for when you think of the plague or something back in the day that lasted 20 years or something.
Yeah.
But 2 years is a really short time, but I think just because of us being able to know what we're doing for each other, and then also the science that we're so technologically advanced nowadays that it's just we're upgrading different things every day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that made a huge difference.
So to end this off, is there anything else that you'd like to add or say?
Todd, I think I always say anyone looking for a great education, a great home, ULM is a place for them. We work hard every day to make sure that our students can be the best versions of themselves. So if you're listening and are looking for a great education, look at ULM. We'd love to have you as part of our Warhawk family.
Yeah. And I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks.
As always, please rate and subscribe. And if you're listening on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe. And click that bell to get notified when new videos are uploaded. And make sure you follow the Toddcast only on Instagram at @the_Toddcast_ for all your Toddcast social media needs. Make sure you tell your friends and your family, or anybody really, to give it a listen. And thank all of you for listening to this episode. And if you want to know what's going to happen next week, well, I guess you're just going to have to tune in to find out. Only on the Toddcast.